Morning. We're going to start because we're going to start on time. Welcome everybody to the Board of Directors Meet the Candidates session. I'd like to welcome Gayatri Sriram, our Chair of the Board Chairperson, and I'm Suzanne Harrison for those who don't know me, but I think everyone here knows me. I'm the Chair of the Election Committee. So the way it's going to work at the moment is, First steps first. I want to thank my election committee for working with us. We've done lots of work to get it all right. So Gayatri, Rich, Eugen and Babita is in the back doing our timekeeping today. Thank you all very much for the work on the election committee. So we're going to introduce the candidates. So let me just do my thing here. Oh, it works. That's our agenda. So introduction of candidates. Sorry, I have to talk into the microphone. Introduction of candidates, then there's a prepared Q&A session, candidate summaries and adjournment at 9:45. So these are our three candidates. We've got Sridhar Venkatesh, Srini Sitaram and Sundar Ramaswamy. So they're our candidates. Now, the first step is going to be the candidate's self-introduction. It's going to be 2 minutes for each candidate, and they're all going to go in an order that they all have a chance to go first and go last. So that's all being worked out. So if everyone's ready to go. Candidate self-introductions, and the order for this is Sridhar is first, then Srini, and then Sundar.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Sridhar Venkatesh. Just a little bit about myself. So I grew up in San Diego, went to college at MIT, did undergrad and graduate in electrical engineering, and for most of my career I've been in the tech industry, mostly with tech startups. I'm right now the co-founder of a startup that's here between Chennai and Seattle, and we've been running for about 4 or 5 years now. And as far as the school, so I've got 3 kids at the school. They're all boys, one in 6th grade, one in 8th grade, and one in 10th grade. We've been with the school for 5 years now, and I expect that all my kids, right now it's looking like all of my kids are going to graduate from here. So I'm deeply interested and committed to the school, and look forward to helping and serving in any way that I can.
Good morning. My name is Srini Sitaram. I'm running for the position on the board of directors at AISC. I was born in India, and I'm an American citizen. I lived in Chennai as a child before moving to the United States for my education. I moved back to Chennai about 3 years ago with my 2 children. They're both here at AISC. One is in grade 1, and the other is in grade 7. I've also lived and worked in Europe, Africa, and the United States. My education as an engineer trained me to be innovative and adaptive. In America, I worked as an engineer, designer of microchips. I worked in marketing, sales, and as an independent consultant. In Africa, I helped launch the first broadband network, countrywide broadband network, in the country of Namibia. I worked on both the technical aspects as well as the political intricacies of such a task, as you can imagine, in a country. I also managed a customer service support team of just 10 support technicians covering the entire country, which is a very large country, as you can imagine. In Armenia, I worked at the United States Embassy, covering the economic issues as well as the educational, scientific, and technical institutions in that country. I built on that experience when we moved to Zambia, and I worked in the US Embassy once again in the environment, science, technology, and health portfolio, and also as the trade attaché helping US businesses. I have been an active parent volunteer at AISC and I've served as grade representative for both my children and as the U.S. country coordinator. I wish to continue my service at AISC, and I thank you for your vote of confidence.
Good morning to all of you. My name is Sundar Ramaswamy, and thank you for giving me this opportunity, and it's nice to be in this very illustrious group of candidates. I'll talk about my board service, I think, at a related time in some of the questions and give you a sense of my introduction of who I am. We are back in Chennai for the last couple of years and intend to stay for a few more years. So I'm a parent of a 9th grader now, and I grew up in Delhi. I'm an economist by training and an educator also by profession. Been in the US for the last nearly 3 decades. My wife, Varna, and I met at Purdue, where I got my PhD, and we've been married for over 25 years. I've been at Middlebury College, one of the top-ranked liberal arts colleges in the US, for over 28 years as a faculty, as an administrator, and my research started out in Africa and then came back to India, so I keep coming back to India and Chennai to a place called Madras School of Economics, where I do all my research. The reason we are now staying back, we were in California for 8 years, where I headed the Middlebury Institute of International Studies, and then after stepping down from the presidency, decided to take a sabbatical and be a researcher, which is what I've been doing, and it allowed me to get involved back with AISC, and our son has enjoyed it from middle school and now starting high school. And what's keeping me now is this exciting journey that I decided to launch into, which is to set up a liberal arts and science university near Chennai called CREA, which just got launched 10 days ago. And so that'll keep me here as the vice chancellor. And so I'm looking forward to interacting with the school in whichever capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go into the first question. And then the question is, AISC's mission, Together We Inspire a Love of Learning, empowering all students with the courage, confidence, creativity and compassion to make their unique contribution in a diverse and dynamic world. With the school's mission in mind, tell us why you're running for the board. The order is going to be Sridhar, Srini and Sundar again, but I will remind you if you need it. Thank you.
Okay, so like I said, I'm interested in serving on the board. I've been on the board for the last 2 years, and I'm interested in continuing because I do want to give back and help the school in a variety of different ways. Specifically, over these next 2 years, I think one of the areas that I'm interested in specifically on the board is what was one of the board's big rocks this year, which is student and faculty achievement and well-being. And I think this aligns really well when I look at the school mission. What I look for and what I hope that my kids and all of the kids that graduate from the school will leave with is, those words in the mission. A love of learning, courage, confidence, creativity, and compassion. And I think more than anything else that we can do as a school, I think, for the, 12 to 14 years, that we have these children, is to start instilling these values within the kids. And so, to me, that's summed up in these words that the board identified over this last year, which is student and faculty achievement and well-being. And if I just, take apart those words a little bit, first, student achievement is, is not meant to be just academic achievement. It's meant to be achievement, across a variety of different areas, and keeping in mind their well-being as well, right? Because I think, this stage of growth, kids are going through a lot, and so we want to help them achieve based on where they are. And keeping their well-being in mind. And to do that, we need, the faculty is probably one of the most important aspects of that. And so making sure that their achievement and well-being is also taken care of, I think, is, one of the most important things that the school can do. And so as being part of the board, that's what I would look forward to participating in. Thank you.
AISC is a great school. My children love the school, and it was a major factor in our move to Chennai. AIC is great because of the hard work of the board of directors, the head of school, the school principals, the teachers, the administrative staff. I also wish to recognize the contribution made by parents and student volunteers in making AISC an oasis of comfort. We cannot rest on our laurels. For AISC to achieve even greater status, all of us have to work harder than we have ever before. And the reward for hard work is usually more hard work. The qualities that have made AISC great will not be enough to make it even greater. AISC faces challenges from looming competition all over this city. And AISC needs to rise above this and compete with them. The entire community of AISC needs to work hand in hand with its mission, instilling these courage, confidence, creativity, and compassion into the students so that AISC can achieve even greater heights. I'm running for the board of directors in order to help AISC achieve this goal. Thank you.
The mission of AISC, I think, is a very powerful one, and I've conveyed this in many a time to Andrew and his team that it's whoever wrote it, and I know this mission writing is not an easy exercise where people sit and agonize over every single word. But as somebody who walked into this community 3 years ago, I have to tell you that it's a very powerful and a very inspiring mission. And one of the things I've done, I was in my first year on the Council of Advisors for the Finance Committee, and the last 2 years on the Board of Directors as vice chair. And with the indulgence of my board, I hope they didn't think it was hokey, but I suggested that we should read the mission at the start of every moment, at every meeting. And not to be very culty about it, but the reason is because missions oftentimes get written with wonderful ambitions and aspirations and then get forgotten. And an organization such as ours, especially one that's transient, we need to make sure that everybody from the board to the principals to the head of school to the leadership team, students really breathe it in and live that life and not just be empty words, hollow words on the walls. So it's an exercise, it's an important one. And I'm really thinking that as we enter some challenges in the years ahead, as every school does, it's a mission that will keep us going, and eventually the mission will also change. But for the right now, it's a wonderful mission. The reason I'm running for the board, as I've said in my introduction, I've lived mostly as an educator and an economist in the higher education space. But in California, for the very first time, I was able to serve on the board of an international charter school, which is an IB school, when Srivats, my son, started kindergarten. And it gave me a real love for giving back to a different community, the K-12 community, in a way that I hadn't done before, having lived mostly in the higher education space. And so I think it is an important reminder to me to serve on the board also so that I'm able to contribute. And the last thing I want to sort of say in this is I've always had this ability to not view things in the board from the perspective of a parent. In the words, I'm able to think about board issues and not just because my kid goes to school, because ultimately we need to think of all kids in the school. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go to question 2. Good governance takes time and energy. In what ways have you demonstrated your commitment to the AIS school community? So we're going... Sorry. The order this time is Srini is going to go first, Sundar second, and Sridhar last.
As soon as my children joined AISC, I volunteered to help teachers and other parents in activities and events. In 5th grade, for my son, I volunteered my time to help decorate the class for Halloween and the year-end party. I volunteered to serve as the kindergarten grade representative when my daughter joined AISC. Here too, with Halloween and class activities, class plays, year-end activities, winter break, I've helped there. As USA Country Coordinator, I've organized the booth at the UN Day and the auction baskets for the PCA ball. In addition, I worked with local hotels to organize discounted brunches for both Thanksgiving and Easter for the parent and teacher community at the school. I work with all interested parties to get their needs, their preferences, and their opinions before proceeding. Only then do I work on the implementation of any project. For example, the USA T-shirt design for the UN Day was chosen by a vote of the US parent community. I serve on the Futures Committee in assisting the Board of Directors in their goal of improving the facilities and environment at AISC. I wish to deepen this commitment by serving on the Board of Directors. Thank you.
I agree that good governance takes time and energy, and as I was coming to an end of my term this year, and as I said in my introduction, starting this new venture of mine, I had to give some thought as to whether I was ready to come back in and put myself in this position and hopefully be serving on the Board of Directors. Regardless of the outcome, when I look back, I've always been a very active parent, attending as many coffees as time permits and being involved. As I said, education is something I think about very reflexively all the time. International education is something I write about, think about. So it's something that I will do no matter what. In more formal ways, as I said, I served on the Council of Advisors, which gave me an insight into what does the board actually do. And it started out with finances, which is in some ways also relatively easy. As an economist, I deal with resources all the time. But then more formally, as the Board of Directors, there are a few things I want to just highlight. As the chair of the Futures Committee, and I give a lot of credit to the people who served with me because it's never done alone, greenlighting the facilities plan. In some ways, we have the amazing facilities, but as all school kids and school parents and educators know, facilities are a necessary condition. They're not sufficient. It's ultimately the quality of the faculty, the quality of the leadership, but we do have wonderful facilities for many, many years, and that's very important. So being part of that whole debate as to what sort of facilities we need for many years was very important to me. Most recently, the chairing of the search for the head of school, and even recently we just had the final meeting of the search committee in response to all the feedback we have received from the community, which is very important so that Andrew's goals are reset for what the community wants, and there's a very impressive turnout for supporting him, but we also want to make sure that the head of school is there for many years past this board. And the last thing that I personally take a lot of pride in, because it's sort of something that came as an afterthought, but I'm glad the school ran with it and the Futures Committee supported it, and the board, was for the school to be a LEED certified school, and one of the few schools you see the dial when you walk in. And we actually are walking the talk of saving the environment, and I'm very impressed that the school actually followed up. So these are the ways in which my commitment has been shown. Thank you.
My first year here, I served on the committee to define internationalism. So if you've seen the internationalism posters, that was an example where we pored over every word and tried to come up with a statement that that represented the schools from an international perspective. I served on the Council of Advisors for 2 years, and both years I was on the academic committee. And then 2 years ago, I was elected onto the board, and as part of the board, I've served as the chair of the academic committee. I was also on the election committee last year, so sitting over there, I think. But more important than all of this, I'm fortunate. My work is just about 5 minutes away, and so I've taken that as an opportunity to be at the school as much as I can, and especially for the ends. I'm not able to make as many of the parent coffees and things because the mornings are a little tough for me, but I try to make it for all of the other events, like the Celebration of Learning, the STEAM Fest, the plays, the sports events, the art shows, and so on, because to me, more than what I see through my kids, obviously I have one view of the school through my kids and through the experiences that they bring back, but being at all of these events gives me a chance to see the rest of the student community, and that's what I really enjoy seeing, is the fruits of all of the work that is being put in by the faculty, the administration, and everyone comes out through the children in these events. And I have to say, that's one of the things I really like about the school, is the opportunity for the students to be able to demonstrate everything that is embodied in that mission. So.
Thanks, Sridhar. So we're going to move on to question 3.
What strategic opportunities do you see for AISC? I think
You've upset my system. One step. So we're just going to read it for the camera, for the recording. What strategic opportunities do you see for AISC? Please focus your answer on governance, teaching and learning and facilities. And we're going Sundar, which you knew, Sridhar, and then Srini is going last. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, and sorry about messing your order up.
It's okay. I'm flexible.
I think it's very important to think about strategy, especially for a board. I believe very strongly that boards need to worry a lot about governance and future of schools, so that the schools thrive regardless of who is heading the school, who is on the board. And I'm very conscious of that responsibility. As an educator and as a parent, and just my own sense, I start off by thinking, how do we always make sure that the school maintains its academic rigor and excellence? I mean, that's what we are here for as a school. And I liked what Sridhar had said about the board's commitment to the big rocks. I think academic excellence and rigor is very important, but it's the overall success and well-being. And that's something we need to be very mindful of year in and year out. At the same time, we live in a very competitive world. As an economist, competition is to me what gravity is to the scientist. Without competition, life doesn't exist. And we will face competition from lots of schools, and which are going to come up, and we should be on our toes all the time with competition. And I think it's less about what we charge, and that's important, but it's what's the value of education that we provide. And it's very important to convey that and not say we know it, but we should be always constantly communicating this with our parents and building that level of trust with our parents through communication of what is the value of an AISC education. Why should you send your kids here and not take it for granted? Because the moment you start taking it for granted, then you've lost the battle with parents and prospective parents. I also think in terms of governance, and it's nice when you hear that your school is recognized by the State Department or in international conferences. When we were recently as one of the most well-functioning boards or well-functioning schools, without being sort of self-patting, I think it's important that regardless of who serves on the board, that boards maintain these very high levels of what I call TALC: transparency, accountability, legitimacy, and credibility. And if you fail on any one of these 4 criteria, then we as a board have not done our job. So I think we should always be sort of looking around the corner while we are managing the school downwards. Thank you.
So I think that if you look at across the 3 areas that are mentioned in the question, so like Sundar mentioned, I think from a governance perspective, I think the board, even well before I joined the board, has been doing an amazing job at governance, and I think, like Sundar said, that has been recognized, and obviously we do need to continue that. I think that is table stakes for any board, and I think that is an area that we should never lose focus on. Similarly with our facilities, I think we have excellent facilities. I think all of the work that has gone in over the past several years, has got us to the facilities that we have today, and continuing to maintain that. I think Andrew and his team do a wonderful job of that, and I think that is also not something we should take for granted. But where I think the biggest opportunity for AISC over the coming years is to become a leader in what I like to use this word, and it's probably not education speak, but progressive education, right? And to me, progressive education means flexibility in learning and integrating both academic and social development. And again, I keep going back. To me, that's what fits, very squarely with our mission. And I think being a relatively small school, I think we have a lot of opportunity to personalize learning, and so that gives us the flexibility. We have a very diverse community, and so the opportunity to become a school that's a leader in flexible learning and education of the whole student, I think that is our opportunity over the coming years. And what I will say is I think we're on the cusp of that. I think we have done so much in the last couple of years to already be demonstrating that to ourselves. I think the opportunity now is to make sure that others outside, not only in Chennai, in India, and kind of globally, especially amongst the international schools, that we have this reputation. And I think that's our biggest strategic opportunity right now. Thank you.
AISC is committed to good governance, innovative teaching, modern learning, and inspiring facilities. Good governance is the overall umbrella under which all other aspects can bloom. A greater involvement by parents at board meetings would demonstrate the hard work done by the board and the head of school. Continued teacher training programs are key to staying ahead of emerging trends in teaching and learning. AISC has demonstrated its commitment to modernizing the facilities to keep students inspired with creativity and confidence. The LEED certification has shown us the first step to many more improvements of these facilities. All these areas, if properly implemented, can propel AISC to even further greater heights above the looming competition. Overall, I feel the greatest strategic challenge is for us not to ask our children or our students, what are you going to become when you grow up? But rather, how are you going to contribute to this world? And AISC is the place where this can actually happen. Thank you.
Thanks. So we're going to move on now. We've done our 3 questions. So this is the opportunity for the candidates to summarise and give us any extra information or ideas they want to give us. And we're going to go through, the order is going to be Sundar first, Sridhar second, and Srini third.
Thank you, Suzanne. And first of all, let me say it's been an honor and a privilege to be part of this community, and certainly in the last couple of years to be formally part of the board. And I want to emphasize that that's something that as long as we are in Chennai and as long as our son is part of the school, this is a commitment that I will make because I believe very strongly in these issues. In terms of the overall summary, I've given you a sense of my background, I've given you a sense of my own commitments, and not just to education broadly, but to also these issues of governance. These are not easy issues, but they have to be dealt with, and we have to continually work with it. The school is a wonderful school, but it has, obviously, every school needs to continue to strive to be better. And more than being better, it's equally important that our students learn how to matter in this world. I think I'm very strongly convinced that that's something that I, as an educator, strongly try and instill in all my students. One of my last commencement speeches I gave, I said, I believe every individual in this world has 3 things, will, imagination, and thought. And I said, like typical commencement speeches, you'll forget everything I've said, but if you remember the one acronym WIT, which is keep your wits about you, you'll remember what I'm saying. Every student has will, imagination, and thought. And every education process that tries to understand each student's different concept of will, how to get them to be imaginative and spread their wings, and how to process these positive thoughts in a way that actually makes them better human beings is really the function of every school, every college. But in this particular case, that's what we need to unleash into the world. The world that we are going to be sending them to is really different than the world I grew up in some ways. The 4th Industrial Revolution is very different with technology coming to us at a breakneck speed. So the human-human interaction, the human-machine interaction, and the human-environmental interaction are absolutely critical for what we need to do. So any educational process that I'm involved with or not involved with is something that I'm very passionate about, and certainly I would like to bring that to bear for AISC to be the leader in this field. Thank you.
Sridhar?
So we talked, I think, both in the Future Summit this year and even last year. There's a lot of discussion about how the world is constantly changing, how what we prepare students for today or the world that exists today is obviously going to be the world very different from the world that our kids go into and that they raise their children into. And so the biggest thing that in my view that we can do is to prepare them for this constant adaptation and this constant dynamicity that kind of surrounds everything, every aspect of life. And again, I strongly believe that with the love of learning and the 4 qualities that we talk about in the mission, that is probably one of the best ways we can prepare them. But when you think about it, that's something that we, even as adults, we struggle with. Right? I mean, this is not something that you leave at 12th grade and you've suddenly got, or we can expect our kids to be, courageous, confident, compassionate, and creative. I mean, this is a lifelong journey, and so I think, the best that we can do is put them, on the first steps, teach them why it's important, teach them why these are the important values to have, and then let them go. And I think the school is doing a great job in doing that so far. I want to continue that. I think there's always more that we can do. And given that the world is constantly changing around us, us adapting to that and being able to use, whether it's new methods, new techniques, bring in new tools to be able to help, put these students out on the right path. That's what I look forward to helping the school achieve. Thank you.
Dear parents, I have demonstrated my commitment to AISC in the last 3 years with time and effort. I've interacted with parents, teachers, staff, and students from diverse origins. In all this time, I see the yearning to take AISC to even greater heights. If elected to the board, I will continue to listen to the concerns of parents, continue to learn from the teachers, continue to consult the vast experience of the head of school, and work under the guidance of the board chairperson and all members of the board to seek a consensus. Thank you for your vote and your continued confidence in my ability to be your representative on the board of directors.
Thank you. We've been very efficient with our time. I don't know what happened there. So that's sort of ends the most formal part of the morning. The next bit is just a little bit of information, and then we've got time, if you want to, we can have a coffee. You can ask any of the candidates some questions one-on-one if you'd like to delve into something deeper. So what will happen is the recording of this will be transformed and uploaded, and so people who haven't been able to make it this morning will be able to see this meeting recorded, and then the ballot will go out at 12 noon today. Every parent who's eligible to vote will receive their electronic ballot to vote, and encourage all your colleagues or your friends to vote, please. And then the end of the vote is by 8 a.m. on the 18th. It will close off, and then at the biannual general meeting that day on the 18th at 8:45, the announcement will be made at the end of the meeting who was successful. I'd like to thank the candidates for coming and putting their hat in the ring. I think this is democracy in action, and it's wonderful to actually have a live contest, and it's wonderful to feel the genuine desire to contribute and to push AISC further. So thank you very much for coming. And being part of it. It's wonderful. So I'm going to it's closed, the formal part. There's coffee, tea, juice around the corner, and some biscuits. And